Hi guys, it's Misty. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am back this week to share my design team project with you for the Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge. Our challenge this week is Traditional Christmas, and we are showcasing products from Tim Holtz. There's several different ways you can interpret this challenge, and I decided to go, my traditional was going to be the colors, red and green. So I'm using this really cool shifter stencil by Tim Holtz. It's the Baubles layering stencil, and I've never used one of these shifter stencils before, so I thought this was a good opportunity to give it a try. I usually use Bristol Smooth cardstock when I do any ink blending, but since I'm not actually blending the colors, I'm just using Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock. So my first distress ink color is the Barn Door, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up my stencil here, and then I'll move on to my second color, which is the Lucky Clover. And I'm using the new blending brushes by Simon Says Stamp. So the way to use a stencil is you ink or paint the first color through the stencil openings, and then you're going to shift the stencil to outline the colored pattern using the etched lines on the stencil. So you have your openings that the color, you ink blend over the openings, and then there's etched circles that you line up on the circles that you just colored to get your second row, which then you can then change colors. I hope that makes sense, but they're really easy to use. The directions are right on the back of the stencil, and I really like these stencils. This is, like I said, my first layering, or my first shifter stencil, I should say, not my first layering stencil, but I definitely would like to get some more of these. There's a couple of the holiday ones that I really like. So now I'm going to blend on the Lucky Clover. And these two colors are really great together for that traditional red and green. It's a nice bright red and a nice bright green. And then I'm going to shift it again and do 2 more rows, one of each color, so that it colors a whole 4 1/4 inch background. I'm sorry I missed you guys last week. It was just way too hectic with Thanksgiving and my weekly challenge, and then I always do a craft fair the day after Thanksgiving. It's Friday and Saturday, so I'm always stressing out about that. And then the Simon Says Stamp December release went live on the 1st, so I had to make something for that. So it's just a whole lot of stress makers, which didn't leave me much time for editing a video. But I did really good at the craft fair, so that always makes it worthwhile. Although it was storming the second day, and we had no heat in the building till like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a little chilly in there. I even ran home and got my hand warmers. But eventually we got heat, and packing up was kind of a bummer because it was really stormy. It was windy and rainy, but I did good, so it was worth it. Now I'm going to trim down some fog cardstock to be my background. So I'm cutting it at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I love how that bubbles panel turned out. Is that cool looking? And the color possibilities are endless with this stencil. So I had this piece die sitting on my desk for a while now, so I thought I would just throw it on there and see what it looked like. And I actually like it now, watching this back. But at the time I wasn't really feeling it, so I'm going to keep working on this. Just cutting a piece of black cardstock so I can do my secondary sentiment, which I'm going to do some white heat embossing, but I'm going to put that aside in a second. So I wasn't really feeling the piece die, so I picked out this other die that I haven't used in, well, I haven't used it since it was either last year or the year before. and I love it. So I you know me, I love dies that have a shadow die, so I thought that was perfect to go with this cool background. So I'm just trying to decide what colors I want to use for my shadow, and I thought this red glitter paper was perfect. And sometimes I'll cut out both the shadow layer and the top layer at the same time because I don't know which it will look better as the shadow or as the top layer. So I'm a visual person. I need to see them. So I just cut them both out and then I'll store the other one and use it at a later time. This card just so happens I like the red as a shadow better. I was thinking if I liked the top layer in the red better, then my shadow could either be black or white. But it turns out I like the red as the shadow, and then I had this kind of white glitter that I used as the top layer. And then I'm going to use the stamp set that coordinates with this die for my secondary part of my sentiment there. It says holiday cheer and happy new year. So I'm just going to quickly heat emboss that with white embossing powder. And then I'll use my sentiment label dies to cut it out. Yeah, I really like the glitter paper with the red and green background. I don't usually do just red and green Christmas cards. I kind of like the non-traditional colors. But it's also fun to do, like this challenge is, you know, traditional Christmas. So it's kind of fun to do a traditional red and green card from time to time. So I'm using the smallest sentiment label die here to cut it out. Love these little strips, these little 1/4 inch strips. And it just so happens that it fit perfectly on that Studio Katia die. And then I like to pop up the sentiments that have a shadow die. So instead of cutting the craft foam with the biggest die, I use the smallest part of the die and glue it on the back. That way you don't see any of the foam behind there. It gives you a little bit more room to work with. Then I'm just going to use my Gina K Connect glue to glue it all together. And I am stretching this glue. I have another tube, but I don't want to start using it until all this glue is gone. So you might see me struggling a couple times in this video to get the glue to come out. It's because it's pretty much empty. Hey, I'm pinching pennies now. Christmas is right around the corner. Trying to be wise. And I'll use the same glue for my craft foam layer. And I just left the negative parts in. You know, doesn't really matter. They were all still there, so I just put glue on them. Figured it would just be a little bit more cushion behind there. But see, so since I didn't use the shadow die to cut this out, I used the top layer. I have a little bit of room all the way around the craft foam, so you can't see it behind there. That's my little trick. And then I really wanted to keep this card simple, so pretty much that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to add any embellishments to it. I'm just going to start gluing this together here. Sometimes I like my cards just to be simple, and this is one of those cards. And then I'm just going to attach it to a top folding card base. And as I put this together, I just want to say that I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope y'all have a fabulous holiday month. I say month because there's usually so much going on during the month of December. I just hope you guys enjoy this time with your friends and loved ones. Hopefully we'll see you here next week. My health isn't the greatest. I struggle with that sometimes, but I started iron infusions again, so hopefully my energy levels will be back up to snuff in about 6 weeks. Hopefully. then I'll be back to my weekly post. But until then, I will try to post as often as I can. What else? I'm still trying to figure out how to do videos with multiple camera angles. I shot a video on how I photograph my cards and a couple other videos with multiple camera angles, but I cannot figure out how to bring it all into Adobe Premiere Pro and get it to play properly. So I'm still working on that. Hopefully someday I'll figure it out and get it to work. But yes, I didn't forget about those. I'm still working on that. But all the supplies that I use for this card will be listed and linked in the video description below and over on my blog, with links to the Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge in case you want to join us. So thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next week. Bye!